Welcome to the Political Vigilante. My name is Graham Elwood. Heard about this NXIVM cult and this woman, this actress, Allison Mack, being arrested. As it being some sort of Hollywood sex slave ring. And there's more to it than that. And there's a article on the freethoughtproject.com going into, it's way more than that. There is child trafficking, there is sex with children, and it's linked to a bunch of billionaires. This is what the mainstream media is not talking about. And I watched, and I'll put the link in the show notes below, and there's a bunch of others. There's a interview on ABC, there's a bunch of other links to other things, and it's curious that the mainstream media is just making it like it's this cult and people are brainwashed and blackmailed into having sex with this guy, which is pretty awful in and of itself, but there's more to it, and the mainstream media is not covering it. So what Allison Mack would do is she would lure women in for a women's empowerment thing. And then they would apparently get personal information and photos and stuff, and they would use that to blackmail you. But who's involved is like people that have dealings with the Rothschilds and the Clintons, and it's like, woo. And it's really creepy. And why is the mainstream media covering it up? Well, if there's billionaires involved, that'll tell you. I remember when it all first broke about whatever it was, 6 or 7 years ago, about what was going on with Jerry Sandusky and Penn State University. And I talked to a friend of mine who's a detective who worked in internet crimes. And when it first broke, he said, "Oh, Graham, I bet you that he was getting kids for the alumni. And that's why it's probably being, they try to sweep it under the rug. It's, Sandusky's one low, bad apple, and Paterno's cool, and all this other stuff." And it's like Paterno knew, and he goes, he probably was getting him for alumni. And when wealthy, powerful people do awful things like, they're pedophiles or whatever, they can cover it up. So I'm just learning about this NXIVM thing. I've never heard about this NXIVM thing until this, but Allison Mack was an actress on Smallville. And basically, she was second in command, and it was her job to lure women into the programs under the pretense of female empowerment and self-help workshops, then convince them to sign up for a more advanced program called Dominus Obsequiosorum, which required these women to basically turn their lives over to the cult leader, Keith Raniere. This is a Latin phrase that roughly translates to master over the slave women. Great. So what Raniere would do, he would blackmail these women. He'd get them to say personal stuff and then blackmail them against speaking out. As alleged in the indictment, Allison Mack recruited women to join what was purported to be a female membership group that was, in fact, created and led by Keith Raniere. The victims were then exploited both sexually and for their labor to the defendant's benefit, the U.S. Attorney Richard P. Donahue said in a statement. The cult was exposed when the daughter of former Dynasty actress Catherine Oxenberg became a member. Oxenberg told the New York Times that she became concerned after she saw that her 26-year-old daughter, India, was extremely emaciated from dieting and was suffering from serious health problems. What gets crazy, though, this is the letter that the U.S. Attorney, and this is in the article here, put in to the letter that the U.S. Attorney put to the court to hold Raniere without bail, is that he's a known child predator. Nowhere in any of the other mainstream stuff have I seen this. This is from the U.S. Attorney's letter. The defendant has a decades-long history of abusing women and girls. According to confidential sources, the defendant had repeated sexual encounters with multiple teenage girls in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. In one instance, the defendant met a 15-year-old girl while he was in his 20s and had repeated sexual contact with her. In another instance, the defendant met a 12-year-old girl whose mother worked for the defendant and began tutoring her. Shortly thereafter, the defendant began having regular sexual intercourse with her, including at his home where he lived with multiple adult partners. One of those partners hired the girl to walk the dog, giving the defendant repeatedly access to the girl. In the actual indictments, in the indictment, in the legal indictment, the criminal indictment, Title 18, U.S. Code sections, and they list all these long numbers: sex trafficking of children or by force, fraud, or coercion. Conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of children. When I first saw this story, I didn't see anything about child trafficking anywhere in there. Why are they not talking about this? It just makes people too uncomfortable? I mean, it's a horrifying subject. It's a horrifying subject. But why would they not talk about this? If you do any Googling or research of this guy, of this Allison Mack, it's more about, this actress and this, they just call it sex cult. They don't talk about child trafficking. Here's another thing that's not anywhere in the news, right? The organization worked much like a pyramid scheme, collecting regular fees from its members. Excuse me. But the majority of the funding, over $150 million, came from the trust funds of Seagram Harris, Sarah and Claire Bronfman. Bronfman. Sorry, Bronfman. Claire Bronfman. I didn't know that till I had to go to this website to find this story, right? The Bronfman family has close ties to the Rothschilds banking dynasty, with members of both families belonging to many of the same companies, including the joint financial firm Bronfman and Rothschild. Additionally, at least 3 high-ranking members of the organization, including Nancy Saltzman and the Bronfman sisters, are members of Bill Clinton's foundation, the Clinton Global Initiative, which requires a $15,000 annual membership fee. Isn't that crazy? Here's what Frank Parlato, a former NXIVM publicist turned whistleblower, told the New York Post about who Claire Bronfman really is. Quote, "She's the enforcer, the brutal one. Claire's running the operation now, and she's the most ruthless of them. I'm issuing an absolute warning now. Claire Bronfman is a true fanatic, and if there's a Jim Jones situation, everyone will commit suicide but her." What's crazy is then she posted this thing on the executive success programs. This is the thing a note from our executive board member Claire Bronfman, right? And I'll put this link in the show notes too. She says, "The past few months have been painful for me. I've seen my friends, associates, and an organization that I care for come under fire. Some have asked me why I remain a member and why I still support NXIVM and Keith Raniere. The answer is simple. I've seen so much good come from both our programs and from Keith himself. It would be a tragedy to lose the innovative and transformational ideas and tools that continue to improve the lives of so many." Okay, here's the next line. "There have been many defamatory accusations made, and I have taken them seriously. Determining the truth is extremely important to me." Okay. "And I can firmly say that neither NXIVM nor Keith have abused or coerced anyone." That's on her website. She is now in charge of the website since he's been indicted. This is a little crazy. This is a little crazy. So I just am like, and in this article are they've listed the full charges to both Allison Mack and Raniere. You can read all of them. It's pretty nuts. But the Rothschilds are involved. You better believe they're going to try to cover this shit up. The family supposedly has, the rest of the Bronfman family has sort of tried to distance themselves from Claire and Sarah. And they've been trying to distance themselves from the sisters in the press. But that's where $150 million of funding came from. So this nerdy, schlubby tech guy could just have sex with a bunch of women and underage girls? What a vile piece of shit. And why isn't the mainstream media covering this? I thank you for watching this, guys, because there's more to this. If billionaires are involved, there's more creepiness. So, thank you for coming to this show to get your information and doing your own research and coming to your own conclusions. The only people that pay me are you. Google pays me through the ads that you guys watch, but they don't influence what I say. They try to by demonetizing things. That's a form of censorship. Anytime I talk about Syria, this is a good chance this might get demonetized. So, unbelievable. Thanks for supporting the show. Please hit the subscribe button. They've been unsubscribing people. If you can donate to the Patreon or the P.O. Box, there's a lot of ways to support the channel. I appreciate all of them.